This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning. Morning. So we have gone through the Ansible architecture, right? Last session. So what mechanism does Ansible follow? Okay. And so how to set up a node in Ansible? There are two steps we have. What are they? Key generate. Okay. So generate key of Ansible server, and then key and then copy to host. And next, what else? Yeah, inventory file. So what is inventory file name? It is in etc and Ansible. There is a file called host file. So this is a file where you mention IP address, host IP address. Okay. So these are the two steps. So what is the role? Set of playbooks. Yes. So role is a set of playbook. So if you want to create multiple playbooks and you want to push multiple playbooks, and then we create a role and push the role. So what is the master playbook? Contains, yeah, so list of nodes and list of roles, and then so from which role you want to push your playbooks. So it contains the whole information. So moving on to today, let's move on to the setup. So we're going to set up first Ansible server, or you can call it a control machine, server or control machine. And once we set up the control machine, and we'll set up the node. Okay, let's set up the node. Whatever you call it, node, host, or agent, whatever you call it. So what is the major benefit of Ansible? The major advantage compared with Puppet, Chef, the other config management tool. What's the major advantage? Agentless. Ansible is agentless. Right. Remember that point. That is one more point. Fine. So let's do the setup. I'm launch two instances, and one is for server, other one is for the host. Let me launch two instances. So how many have attended Sunday session? Almost everyone. I didn't see these many people on. So anyone has lifted? No? Why? Stuck up with? Okay. So this rest of you, anyone tried that load balancer concept? No. At least did you understand the concept? Do you understand the architecture diagram? So how to set it? That is important. Sorry. Someone said something. Yes. So it's for routing the load. So if the load happens correctly, then you won't be having too many performance issues, high availability. So high availability issues. So if the load balance does not happen, there will be some availability issues, right? And you don't need too much auto scale, right? If the load is distributed accordingly, the load as per the rules we have set up in the load balancers, then you don't need to set up. I mean, you don't need to have too many auto scaling groups conditions set up. That's the advantage. Okay. So let's go with which one? Shall we try with RHL? Okay, let's try with Ubuntu. Because so far we have been practicing with RHL. Let's try with Ubuntu. So go with t.micro. It's basically strand setup. And go with default VPC. My default VPC. So everything is default, and then name. Let's give a name. So what shall we name? Okay, let's give this name, or else 1 second. So give something because I have instances with the same names. I think so. I'm giving this name Ansible Server CIS, and SSH. Go with SSH, and I would go with anywhere SSH. Let's go with next step. Then launch. The key is probably I'll take the key. It's a key. But one thing, I just go back again. Previous step. I will go back to the third step. I will be launching 2 instances. We need one for server, one for the host. Okay, let's launch 2 instances. Review and then launch. Now launch it again. So sorry, that's a key pair. So these are the instances. I'm going to rename them. So rename them as, which one it is? Ansible server. So don't get confused with the names. So that's the reason I have many instances running same time. Okay. So Ansible server CIS, that's our server, and this one, so we'll be renaming as an Ansible host CIS. So I just make a note of these IPs. I need these IPs. Just so that's IP address, and this is my host IP address. I make a note of it on some notepad. That is my host IP, and then also take the IP address of the server. That's IP address of the server. That's your server. So now moving on to this installations, how to set up Ansible server. So what is the package we install on Ansible? So Ansible has only one package, which is Ansible package. Ansible does not have any node packages. Okay. So on the nodes, do we install any packages? No. That's why Ansible is called agentless. But whereas when you go to host host must be install a package, and the package name is Ansible package. So that is what we're going to try that first. So I'm going to install a package called Ansible package. Just log into the server, and this is Ubuntu. So the default username is Ubuntu. Switch to super user. So now let's install, and how to install it. Apt install. So this is like on Red Hat, we go with yum install. Now it is apt install on Ubuntu. Apt install, and then your package name -y. And then to locate package Ansible. Why? Okay, let's see. Go with apt get update. So this is like again yum update. Okay. So update the repository, apt repository. What is that? Sorry, it's apt space. There should not be a space. You can go with no space, hyphen, or else you can straight away go with apt update. That's also correct. Previously, we used to do it apt get, but now it is only apt. Then so it's all that package is to be upgraded. All right, fine. And then so try that apt install Ansible. Install Ansible. It is also installing Python 3. Okay. Ansible package also installs a version which is Python 3 version. So try with Ansible version, version, I guess. Version. So that's Ansible version is installed. Okay. And also you can see that that's a Python 3 is installed, and Ansible needs Python 3. I mean the version we are using is 2.9. So for all 2.9 versions, we need Python 3 versions. Okay, remember. And then okay, fine. Server setup is done. And how about the node setup? How to set up the node? We have 2 steps for the node setup. What are the steps? Generate a key of your Ansible server and then copy the key to the host. And secondly, in the host file, in the inventory file, we call it inventory file. And in the inventory file, we mention the IP address of the host. Okay, fine. Let's try with Ansible host setup. What is my host IP address is? That is a host IP address. Okay. So we just log into the host now. So go with host, new session. So this is my host. So hope the font is visible, or else I can change the font size. So the black screen is our Ansible host, white screen is our Ansible server. Okay, so we have two screens open. White screen is our Ansible server, black screen is our Ansible host. Well, now, so what is the first step? Generate a key. So what is the command to generate a key? SSH key gen. So hope you remember these key concepts. So we have practiced in Linux sessions as well as in AWS. I have shown you these steps how to do SSH key copies. Right now, enter this enter, and where is that key? Right. So in root user directory, you have dot SSH, and then you have a key. Which key we copy? Public key. So open the public key. Now that's the key. Just copy the key. Okay. And then we just paste it to the host. Now, so where do you paste it? What is the file? So what are we doing? Are we adding IP address? Copy the key to authorized keys. Yes, on host, what is that file we copy the key to? You remember the SSH keys concept? So why did we practice them? For this purpose, not to waste the time. There is a purpose thing we have learned. There is a purpose. So SSH keys, like I said on that session, on there at that time itself, I have said that. So we need this concept in Ansible. So this is where we need SSH concepts. Okay. Well, so you need SSH concepts even in the future. Remember. Then, so go with what is the directory? Where do you see that file? Authorized underscore keys root dot ssh. You have authorized underscore keys. Open that file and you just copy your key. Okay, just copy the key. So instead of copying it manually, why we can't use SSH key copy? So do you remember SSH key copy? Why I can't use that SSH key copy? Even practice those commands, those commands, and then key copies. Anyone done it? No one? Okay, let me know the answer. Why we cannot use that? Why I'm copying the key manually? Why I'm not using SSH key copy? No one asked me that even at that time also. I've shown you this, right? Remember? So in AWS second session, okay, so I've shown you the SSH concepts. I've copied a key from one instance to another instance. Why did I do that manual copy? We can use SSH key copy commands, right? Which we have done in on virtual instances. On virtual instances, I've generated a key, and after that, I have used SSH key copy command. Why I haven't used the same command for EC2 instances? Any idea? Cloud not possible. Why? Why it's not possible? That's correct, but why? Security reasons. Okay, what do you mean by that? See, now you know my instance IP address, right? This is my instance IP address, and you have an instance from your side. If you know my instance IP address, we can use that SSH key copy onto my instance. So it's not permitted. That is the reason. So by default, your cloud instances don't allow those commands, SSH key copy. If that is possible, anyone can do SSH key copy onto my instance, right? But so now the key was copied. Now again back to our server. So let's check that SSH command now. What is SSH command? SSH username An IP address, right? So it's IP address. Now, can I take a public IP or private IP? Why not private? We have copied public key, so we use public IPs. Okay, that's wrong. So it does not mean that since we have copied public keys, does not mean that we use public IPs. So when we use public IPs, when we use private IPs, network level we use which one? Private. So if if let's say these two instances running on same VPC, right? So I can communicate from one IP or one instance to another instance using private IP. That is possible because we are under same network. But for example, so you want to do SSH onto my instance, but you are on different network. Then how do you do that? Using public IP. So anyone wants to try that? Let me give you a scenario first. Let me check this first. 1 second. I'll give you a scenario. Now we have logged in. So what is the IP address? That's a private IP. Okay. Anyway, so all done. Success. Very simple step. Now, so the question is, I think I had given these scenarios in VPCs, but let me give you that scenario. So create two VPCs, VPC1, VPC2, two VPCs. I think I have given you this scenario. This is similar to that. Okay. So I have instance 1 and then instance 2 here. I want to do SSH from instance 1 to instance 2. Yeah, this scenario was already given, I guess. Yeah, I've given this. Now tell me the steps. How is that possible? So why you are not practicing AWS? VPC? Peering. Yes. So you need to generate a peering connection between these two VPCs. Once peering connection is done, then your SSH connections or any type of connection is allowed. Okay. Anyone tried that? Yeah. Okay. So anyone tried this Bastion instance? Anyone? No one? What is the Bastion instance?
Okay, we are trying to provide instance. There are two
So usually for the private subnet instances, you cannot do SSH because it's a private subnet. If it's a private subnet, it's not allowed to provide SSH from everywhere. So we don't do it. But still, I want to do SSH to the private instance. How is that possible? So we create an instance first in the public subnet, and from the public subnet instance to you do SSH to the private subnet. So that is our public subnet instance, which is our Bastion instance. This is our public subnet instance. You understand the importance of these questions. So when you attend the interviews, you understand the importance of them. Okay. So every question, so I just gave you all the sessions. So most of them will be there in the interviews. You attend it once you start attending interviews after 3 to 4 sessions, after 3 to 4 interviews. So you feel the importance. Okay, and then so this is you are spending some time, almost like 2.5 to 3 months. So there is a reason, right? Okay. Anyway, so we are done with the first step. And what is the first step? Generate keys. Okay. Second step is inventory file. So where do you see the inventory file? Under EDC. you have an Ansible directory, cd Ansible. So this is Ansible home directory, and there you have a file called host file. So vi, this is just a text file, host file, and then insert. And by default, all the lines in this file are comments. You see that every line starting with hashtag, that means those lines are comments. They have no meaning. You can remove all of them if you want. So there is no meaning for these lines. Then, so this is just an help actually. And so what do we enter? Host IP. Yes, you enter the host IP. IP address. That's IP address. Okay. Now we are done with the two steps: key copy as well as inventory file IP address. I want to check the communication between these two. What type of communication? Ansible communication. Is my Ansible server is able to communicate with Ansible host? So usually, how do you check the communication? What is the ping command is used for? Why ping? For example, I use something like, so this, what is that? Yeah, so am I able to communicate with Google servers? That means your URL website. So that is a kind of a confirmation that are you able to communicate so with that particular server. Instead of host IP, so instead of the host name, I can enter the IP address also, right? So that is for the purpose of communicating with Google servers. Then I want to check the communication between Ansible server to the Ansible host. Ping, but this ping is for network ping. I'm not using a network ping command, rather I would be using Ansible ping. Ansible ping. And so what is that ping is? In terms of Ansible, ping is nothing but module. Ping is nothing but a module. So what is a module in Ansible? So first, go to the host. This is our host. On this host, I want to install some package. Let's say some HTTPD package. So what are the steps you follow? So what do we write in Ansible server? I want to install a package. In the last session, I've given you that example. I want to install a package called Apache 2 package or HTTPD package. So what is the step? What do you do first? Once we have the total cluster ready, server and the host is ready, what do we do next? We write a playbook, right? Okay, in the playbook, so you mentioned you write some YAML scripts. Okay, and in that script, you write your script defining your action. What is action is? I want to install a package, right? Now, what is a package then? Package is nothing but a module for us. So what module decides? Module decides what type of actions you're doing on the host. So for example, I'm installing a package, then your module is package. You write something like in package as a predefined command within the Ansible playbook. I want to restart some services, then you use service as a module type. That module defines the type of action you're going to perform on the host. I want to install a package, package name, and I want to install it. I want to restart a service, service name, restart. I want to create a file path, and then create. So this is what we write in Ansible playbooks. Everything is regarding your modules. So these modules are already defined by the Ansible. We just use the modules. Okay. So now what is the module I'm using here? Ping module. What ping does? Check the communication. Okay. And with what? With host IP. So where is my host IP? That's a host IP. So now I have a successful message. There is your Ansible. has written a message called, so we call it ping pong message. So what is a ping pong message is, so this is a ping message is sent by the server, and in return from the host, so server has received a message called pong. So that's a communication, that's a confirmation, ping pong message we call it. Okay, well, and then, so what is that change is false? Why change is false? So did we do any changes on the host? What do you mean by changes? I have not created any files, I have not installed any packages, I have not started any services. So the command hasn't done any changes on the host. In fact, it has just only checking the communication. For example, I'm creating a file on the host from my server. Is it a change or not? I'm deleting something. That is also a change. So now in this case, the change is false. Okay, it hasn't done any changes. But now also you see that it is checking for Python version. So if the host did not have Python installed, then the communication should not be possible. So Python is mandatory for all the hosts. But if we install Python on the host, yeah, it is there by default. So that is the advantage of Ansible. Okay. Now, so going with, so let's back to the host file. So I'm sorry, where is the host is etc Ansible. Okay. So now we are in Ansible and open the file, and I just so remove that. Okay, and then again run the command. So Ansible ping command. Am I able to ping it? So what is the message? So host could not match the supplied host file. Could not match the supplied host. That means this host is not found in the host file. Okay. So if you get anytime if you get a message call, so supplied host does not matter, that does not form, and the message is nothing but the host IP address is not available in, sorry, yeah, in the host file, or you can call it inventory file. So where is our inventory file? So which is host, there is your IP address. You can just take the IP address. That's IP address. Save it. Okay. Now we can try that ping command. Now that works. Now can I ping the private IP? I'm able to ping the public IP, right? So what if I take the private IP then? Can I do it? Yes. Possible or not? Are they under same VPC? So we have created same under same VPC. But what is the message? Yeah, that means, so in the inventory file, you enter the IP address. Now you can try that private IP address as well. But both must be either same VPCs, but they can be under different VPCs if they have peering connection set up. If they don't have peering connection, so you cannot ping them. Okay. Now we have seen how to get these IPs and how do you ping them. So we got all of it. We have seen the whole cluster setup. Okay. So let's move on to writing some playbooks. Okay, but before we write the playbooks, we'll try to look into something ad hoc commands. Okay. So what is an ad hoc command? So usually, if I ask you to create some files or packages or services, anything on the host side, so how to start with it is you write by writing some playbooks. Once we write a playbook, we push the playbooks to the host. But we take the concept of playbooks. If you are writing your playbooks for example, I want to create some file, some hello.txt file on host, but you write a playbook whenever you want to. So push that file or create that hello.txt file on number of hosts. And let's say I want to create that file on 1020 hosts, and you can write a playbook. And but here I want to create that file only on one host, and that too, I'm not going to repeat the same task again. I'm not going to create that file again in the future. I'm creating only once, and that too on single host. In that case, so I'm not going to write a file which is Ansible playbook file. I'm going to use some ad hoc commands. Ad hoc commands are nothing but your playbooks. But in what cases we use ad hoc commands? Like one single host and only like one time kind of activity. You can go with ad hoc commands. Okay. So let's take a couple of ad hoc commands, and later we can start with our playbooks. Okay. Now, so first, so I'm going to create a file on the host. So where is my host? So this is my host. Okay. Now on my host, I make some directory, something like test. Sorry, whatever. Let's go with test 6 to name it as test. Okay. Now test directory, that's our directory. Okay. So in the directory, I'm creating a file called something file1. Okay. So this is my file. I've created manually on the host. But from my server, I want to see whether the file exists or not. Okay. So I want to see that whether the file exists on the server, on the host or not. Am I clear? So my host might have number of files, but from my server, I want to find out whether that particular file exists on my host. So how do I do that? Simply, what I'm going to do, if the file exists, I want to fetch the file information. So what is the file information? So who is created that file, and what are the file permissions when the file was recently modified? I want to fetch all this file information from the host. How do I do that? Using Ansible ad hoc command. So what is the command? How to write a command? So firstly, Ansible -m stands for module. So which module? I go with a module called file module. So why file module? Why not some other module? Yeah, we are fetching the file information. We are trying to read that file. So I'm using file as a module. For example, I'm installing a package. Then what is the module then? Package. So I want to restart a service. Service is the module. So I want to create some users. User module. I want to create some groups. So mostly the modules are same names with our requirements. Okay. But now going with file is a module. And so where is that file? On the host. Okay. So we need host IP address. That's host IP address. Okay. And then, so whenever you want to read a file, you need some other attributes. So what are the attributes? For example, you're creating a file, let's say. So what are the attributes you need to create a file? The path of the file, right? So let's mention the path. A stands for attributes. So what are the attributes for the file module? The attributes for the file module is, in the single quotation, mention the path. So you mentioned that you're reading a file, but where is the file path on the host? The path of the file is in test. So, and then what is the file name? File1. Now enter. So now I got some information. So the file status exists. Since the file status exists, the command status was success. If the file does not exist, will it be success? Let's say I'm trying to read a file called file2. So it is a failure. Okay. So the reason is file not found. You can say command is a failure, or you can say it is. So file is absent. File cannot be found. Okay. Now it has fetched some information for us. What is the information is the group and owner, file, state of the file. So you have file information. So we are trying to read a file, but is it possible to create a file? So when you are able to read a file, why it is not possible to create a file? So you can do anything on the host. So with again ansible adopt command and with -m, and then so what is the module again? File module. Why file module? I want to create a file. Previously I was reading a file, now I'm creating a file. So the type of operation might be different, but the module type is changed. Still we are doing an operation. What kind of operation? Create operation. But what is that module? File. Okay. And then IP address. IP address. And now tell me the attributes. What could be attributes? There is nothing called name. You have path. Okay. So what is the path? Test. Now you can mention the file name you want to create. File. Okay. Fine. Anything else? Anyone? So you want to create a file, right? You convey that in the command. So go with state. The state is touch. State is touch. So this is like touch command. Okay. Now enter. Now so look at here. What is the status is? Okay. But previously for the other two commands, the status was success and status was failure, and now the status is changed. What's the difference between these three? The status is important. Status is very important for us in the future. Now tell me what is the difference, why we have three different statuses. See, fail means we understand that the command execution might be a failure or the file does not exist. Okay. The difference between success versus change, what's the difference?
Change we create a file. Change.
See, Ansible server in this command hasn't done any changes on the host. So that is what you mean by success. The file was existing, but that command hasn't done any changes on the host. It has not created files, it has not modified it, has not deleted that. So that's why it was command was execution was success, but it is not changed. When you see it is changed, the command execution of this command ansible command execution was success with status is changed. That means it has done some changes on the host. Remember these statuses. Based upon the statuses, even we write the playbooks. Okay. So that is what is your change. Now, for example, I want to delete some files. How to delete it? Going with again ansible -m file, and then see I'm deleting some file or a directory. Whether you want to make some directory or file, you want to delete some file or directory, the module is same. File is the module. We are doing some file related operations. So there is no different module for directory. So we don't have any modules for directory. No, there's nothing like this. Okay. So we have only file module. Okay. So then IP address. Next, attributes. So what are the attributes? Path, okay. So path of the file, and then the file name. Next, status. Yeah, you almost correct. It is not delete, it is absent. Absent. Okay. Enter. Changes again. True. So you can also see the colors. So the color is, so it's in brown color. So if you see something in brown color, and this is your changes true. If you see in green color, it was success but no change. Okay. But so this is not our concentration. Our concentration actually on playbooks. Right now. So let's try to write some playbooks, and we have written some examples, right? I was creating a file, I was deleting a file. Let's try to do all these things, how I can do them with the help of a playbook. Okay, so now start writing a playbook. Let's make some directory, something like sample playbooks. So, and that is a directory I'm going to create all my playbooks. You can create your playbooks in any path, any directory. There is no standard path for this. Okay, and there is no standard naming convention for the playbooks. They can be created any path and with any names. There is no naming conventions. Now, so let's first create a playbook. Now, so I'm writing my playbook, and the purpose of my playbook is I want to create some file, and then with .yaml. So that's my playbook name, and then with .yaml as an extension, and write a playbook. Insert. How to write a playbook? The playbooks are written in with 3 hyphens, YAML script, and starting with 3 hyphens. Okay. So this is the basic syntax. Every playbook starts with 3 hyphens, and in the next line, hyphen space, and there we write host. Okay. So hyphen and then space, and also this is important for us to make sure each and every space and every alignment is important. For example, after hyphen, I have not given any spaces. That's a syntax error. And after the host, so I have not given any, I have given extra space. That's a syntax error. So the indentation, that means every space and the alignment of everything is important. If you miss even one single space, and that's a syntax error in Ansible. Okay, so make sure. Then space, and so what do you write over here? What is that? IP address. Get the host IP address. Okay. Then, so in the next line, you go with user, but you see that host, user, they're starting in the same alignment. Okay, and user. So what user? So what do you mean by user? So we are writing a playbook. Once the playbook is ready, I'm going to run the playbook. So when the playbook is run, it is going to do some actions. Let's say, for example, it's creating some files on the host. But firstly, your host must give you some permissions to run that playbook. So now I take a user permission, which is root user. Why root user? Why not some other user? So since that user, I have done SSH initially, so to the host. So I have created a key and then copied that key to the root user of the host. That's the reason I'm taking root user access. And somewhere in some examples, you might come something called Ansible user. So whether if you see Ansible user, so this is just a user name, but the user must be created first, and then for that user, you must have key copied. Okay. Well, anyway, so mostly it is root user. We prefer root users because being a root user, you can do some configuration level changes on the host. That means installing packages, upgradations, and patch upgradations. All these things can be done only with the help of root user. That's the reason we take root user access. That. So next line is task. So what is a task? The task defines why you are writing a playbook, the purpose of the playbook. I'm writing a playbook for the purpose. So what is the purpose? To create some file. So mention that within your task. So how do you do that? And in the next line, in the same alignment, hyphen, space, name, colon, then space. Okay. So what is the name means? Give some name. You can give any name. So let's say create some file. Some. That's my name. Name can be anything. You can give any name to that. So you can. So that can be also your name. And then comes just under the name, and you go with writing some task, or you can say module. What is the module? File module. So I was using this file module previously using some ad hoc commands, but now I'm using within a playbook. But the module is same. File is a module, and file has attributes. Now tell me, I want to create a file. What are the attributes? Path, yes, and give some path. I want to create, let's say, server file one, something, and then next state. State is such. So that's a simple playbook. So there is, see, the file module and attributes are same, like your ad hoc commands. The only change is the way you write your playbook is different. Host, user, task, and task name. Then comes your module. Okay. And then save it. So we have playbook ready. Let's run the playbook. So what is the command to run a playbook? Anyone remember? Ansible hyphen playbook, right? Ansible hyphen playbook, and then playbook name. So what is the playbook name? That's my playbook name. Now run it. So first it was playing. So what is a play, or what's the difference between play versus playbook? So what is a playbook? Playbook has maintains your list of configurations and list of hosts. So what is a play? Play is nothing but your host. What do you see that? That's your host. On which host you are running your playbook? So that is what is play means, where you are playing it, where you are running it. So what is a host? Okay. And then you have a task. What is the task is? Gathering files. See, in my playbook, I have defined only one task. So what is the task name? Create some file. So that is my task actually. But apart from that task, there is another task. So gathering facts. So what is gathering facts? What do you see that message? Okay. So what it is doing? It is checking the status of the host. So this is like Ansible ping command. So your playbook automatically checks your node status. Is it reachable or not? Is it okay or not? Yes, that is okay. Checking the status of it. Okay. Next, the actual task. The actual task is, that's our action task. And what is the status? Changed. So that means the file is created on my host. Okay. And then you have a recap. Recap means yeah, okay is to change is one. Then how many tasks? Totally we have two tasks. You can see the total two tasks. And how many changed? One changed. And if you have any hosts which are unreachable, you can see them under reach unreachable and fail or any skill. Now, So you want to check that manually on the host. We have server file 1 created. Okay. Then, so I want to make a directory. How to make a directory? So let's say, so create directory dot YAML. Okay. And what is the syntax? So hyphens, and then next line hyphen space host, and then IP address. Now we are running only on one single host. But what if I want to run on multiple hosts? Comma. Now I'm going to take, I don't have a second host. I can use my private IP address. Okay, I take the private IP. But consider that I have two different hosts. Okay, since I have only one host, so I'm using one host. But in your from your understanding, so consider that I have two different hosts. That's why I mentioned two different IPs. If you have a third one, comma, third one, I have fourth one, comma. But what if I want to run the playbook on about 50, 60, 100 hosts? Is it possible to mention all the IPs? No, right? That's not possible. So what is the way? There's a different concept. We'll talk about it. But as of now, I'm running it on two hosts. Okay. And the user. And then go with next is task. And then go with name, hyphen name. And one more thing. So you can give one space at the beginning or any number of spaces. Beginning of it. Okay. At the beginning of line, you can give one spaces or number of spaces. That's not a problem. Okay. And but don't use a tab space. If you use a tab space, that will be considered as a special character, special key. So use space buttons. So, but after name, you need one space after the name. Okay, that's a space. So, and next, so create directory. Okay, fine. Let's say create some test directory, whatever. And then, what's the module? File module. So name of the sorry, not name, path. So let's say something like server directory 1. Okay, and then state is directory. Okay, but how do you know? How do I know these statuses? So you need to just go through Ansible documents. File module Ansible. So there are a number of modules. All these modules are 3D modules. So this is your, so what are the attributes? The attributes are for the state. The state is, it is touch and then directory. And you can also create a file. That's also correct. And now, so go with save it. So run the playbook, Ansible icon playbook, and then playbook name, create directory, YAML. Now it is checking the status for both, okay, both IPs, and then the task. And so why that is changed for one host? Why not it is changed for the other host? It's the same instance, right? Same instance. That's why the first task is, I mean, your first instance But see, we know that it's a different IP, but sorry, same instance IPs, but Ansible does not know that. So initially Ansible has created the directory, but if you want to create the same directory again, so what will be the status? Exist. It's already okay. That's the reason it is okay. Then, so you can see the recap again, and you want to check the directory, so you can check the directory. That's your directory. Continue. And I want to remove them. So it's a create directory. How to remove that? State is absent. And can I write multiple tasks in a same file? Yeah, why not? You can do it. So I'm going with writing a second task. So let's say, so delete. The first one is also change it to delete. Delete test directory. Now I'm deleting which one? File, server file something. Server file. Okay. And then what's the module? File module, and then path, and the name server file 1, and the state is sync. So save it. Ansible icon playbook, and then the playbook name. So it is deleted. So first directory deleted. Next is delete file. So both are deleted. So you don't need to check this instance every time. So they'll be deleted. That's why we have this message is there. If the change is true, you can see that changes. Okay. So we are creating a file. So with some, one second, let me just go with. So create a file again. Ansible icon playbook. I run that create file. Okay. I want to create that file. So the file is created, and now you go to the host. So this is a file, and what are the permissions? 644, right? By default, when the file is created, the file permission is 644. But I want to create a file with different permissions, and I want to make some user as a owner. Okay, so how do you do that? So go with open the file, your create directory or create file, something, create file, and then you can write more attributes to it. So what are the attributes? Mode of the file. So what is the mode of the file? I want to go with, so let's say 400, read only permission, and I want to create some owner. So who is the owner? Something like user 1. I want to make this user owner. Okay, so we can find all these attributes from here. You can see that user or owner, or you can see that mode of the file owner. You can see the owner, mention the owner name, and also so mode of the file. You can mention the file permissions like this. So here's some file permissions. Okay. So just create these files and create these directories and try to remove them and try to create them. So well, this is easy, but I want to create about 10 files. I want to create 10 directories. I want to delete them. For example, take this example. I want to create 10 files. Then create file 1, file 2, file 3. Am I going to write 10 different tasks? Is it possible? So this is not possible. So that's why we have other concepts like variables. So by using variables, so that is possible, which we're going to talk about in tomorrow's session. Okay. So For today, you just only do the Ansible cluster setup. That means set up the host and also set up the server, and then you do some. So make sure you set up at least 2 hosts, okay, for the future purpose. So you just do that first. So the first thing is set up the cluster, and in that cluster, you can go with so 2 hosts at least. You can go with more number of. It's okay. And then so do some commands, ad hoc commands, and these are commands for so file purpose only. File create them and then delete them, and so also try the same things using some playbooks. Okay. So for create files and directories and also delete it. And try to run the playbook on. So when you run the playbook, try to run the playbook on multiple hosts. Okay. So try this. And so in our coming sessions, we'll be talking about more modules and then more concepts. So like we talk about so packages, services, we talk about handlers. We have many concepts to discuss. Okay. So any questions? Any questions? Even if this is your AWS sessions, last weekend sessions. If you have any questions, even on that, you are most welcome to ask your questions. VPCs or else load balancers or even this Ansible, whatever.
So maybe a mirror image load of instance purpose we are creating.
So image.
So autoscaling we create image.
Yes.
That image we are creating with purpose of load of the instance.
Yes. Of course, the autoscale group has to create images, has to launch the instances. So how the instances will be launched based upon the AMI. So that is the purpose of AMI. If there is no AMI, so autoscale groups cannot launch instances. Right? Yeah, that's the reason. So you have seen that as soon as we have launched that autoscale group, it has created an instance for us. Right? When you go to autoscale groups, you can see the instance name, right? And you can set up the conditions how you want to do the autoscale, the metrics. And that is an important question. How the autoscale group conditions been set up? What are the different metrics they have? And what are the metrics you are using for this purpose? Autoscale group purpose. Metrics, remember that point. Can you give me some metrics? Any other questions? So let's see how many of you, I will give you the whole week, the full week. So on next Sunday, so I'll give you 5 days of time and come up with some positive answers that you have set up the load balancers. And also tell me how many attempts you took it to set the load, how many attempts, successful attempts, how many failure attempts. So it is not possible to set the load balancer in the first attempt itself. It takes at least 2 to 3 times, right? So see, the session itself took about 2.5 hours. Okay, and you start creating by yourself, and don't copy paste it. Okay, don't do copy paste it. First understand and get the picture first, then you try to implement it from your side. Don't just look at the video. So I remember once, so there was a student, he was asking me a question. He is not able to play the videos on phone. I said, why you want videos to be played on the phone? He wants to put that phone in front of his screen and look at his phone and do some hands-on, replicate the same thing on his system. Does not make any difference. Like instead of doing it, I mean, why do you want to go copy and paste it? You look at the screen and you type it. That does not help you out. So first look at the whole. If you don't understand it, go through the whole video and understand it. Then you come to the practical part. Okay, don't do copy paste. So that's why that architecture diagram which I have given you, that will help you a lot in even in understanding our explanation. Okay. Yeah. So without these two topics, VPSCs, load balancers, you won't be having any AWS interviews. Okay. Yeah. So that is the importance. And if you're able to prepare for the questions I have given you in these two topics, so that is all about your questions in interviews. You can't expect more than that in interviews. So 90% of the questions, not 90, I would say even 99% of the questions, these are a set of questions in interviews. You can crack any questions towards VPCs, load balances in interviews if you're able to understand and answer them. There is no more than that. Okay. So
application load balancing and also network load balance also based on our network TCP and IP.
Correct. So that is an important question in interviews. So what type of load balancer you're using? Okay. So at what time you use network load balancers? What time you use application load balancers? So network load balancers are used. So based upon if you want to do the load balancing at TCP IP, okay, based upon TCP IP protocol. Okay. So you anyone remember that network layers? How many layers we have in the network? 7 layers, right? So TCP IP layer comes at what level? Layer 4. Correct. That's what. So if you want to do the load balancing based upon layer 4 TCP IP, then we use a network load balancer. If you want to do the load balancing at layer 7, which is application layer, that's layer 7, HTTP layer, then we use the application load balancer. That's an important question. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Any more questions? See, hardly I see one or two people asking me questions, not more than that. Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, they have renamed it. Just I checked it yesterday itself when I was looking into the session. So the name has been renamed actually. Even I was really surprised. The name has been renamed. Once again, they have renamed it to something else. So in the past, they used to have a name called what is classic load balance. Now it has been renamed. One second, let me show you that. So when you create a load balancers, it was not there in the last even at last session about 10-15 days ago. That load balancer was not introduced recently, I guess. That was yeah. CWS are coming with very new advanced, very new concepts. So we need to keep an eye on the update. So create a load balancer. I think they still have the classic one, I guess. They still have the classic. Okay. They haven't deleted that. They still have the classic one. So you can still create the classic one. Okay. So they have introduced this new one. So what is that? Based upon the IP address. Choose the gateway. Okay, based upon the gateways. Fine. I need to look into it. Even I don't know what exactly how exactly that works. I'm not sure. I need to look into that. So if I get any idea, click on that create. Name, VPCs, everything is same. Okay, they have IP type. Well, okay, fine. IP type. Fine. Again, target groups, everything is same. Target groups. Name. Okay, there you have protocol type. Okay, TCP protocol. TCP they have. Okay, HTTP is like for the application ones. Okay, we use a target. That's okay. That's okay. So the only difference what they have that's IPv4 type. That's the only difference I see. Based upon the IP, since they are doing the IPs, so they are using that IP address type. Okay, so I need to find out what exactly. Sorry. That is internet based. That's there in the application load balancer. When you go with create application load balancer, there you have internet based. There you have internet based. Here itself you have it. Okay. So and when you go with create load balancer for the network load balancer, this is also internet facing. Okay. They also have internet facing. So because this is also a kind of load balancer, but it is a load balancing of networks, TCP, IP protocols. You see that there you have TCP protocol. That's what it is. Okay. But mostly at the applications level, so we mostly use application load balancers. Okay. So and but if you go with this, we report that in the next weekend, and which is a elastic beanstalk. So I already have shown you an example how to select the elastic beanstalk, but the purpose we'll talk about that in the next coming weekend session. Okay. We're going to do some deployments onto beanstalk, but for those beanstalk instances, I think you already know that you don't need to set up this auto scaling load balance concepts are not required. Right. So that's the best advantage of beanstalk. But beanstalk is limited. So for example, I want to have my different application. Beanstalk is nothing but a platform ready, right? You can go with Tomcat, but I don't want Tomcat. I want something else. So for example, I want Nginx. Nginx is also like Tomcat, but they don't provide Nginx. Okay. In that case, we go with EC2 instances. If you have EC2 instance, then you follow all the steps. Don't think that we use Beanstalk instances in real time. Very less. Mostly it will be EC2. And then if you have EC2, again, load balancings, auto scalings, everything set up. Okay. Thank you.